was reading through the book of Ephesians, and I was kind of just studying a chapter a day, and I was reading Ephesians 5, where it says that we're the bride of Christ. And as a guy, I was like, what? I know his bride. And I also, at the same time, was reading this book called Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers.
Yeah.
So it's like this fictional story, and I'm like the only guy I know that's read it. It's kind of weird, but it's this fictional account of like God telling this guy to go marry a prostitute in the 1800s, and it's sort of like a retelling of the book of Hosea. Because for those of you that don't know, there's this really weird passage in Hosea where God's like, hey Hosea, I know you've been following me and you're my prophet. Go marry this girl that's going to cheat on you and keep loving her. At which point we'd be like, say what? You know? And he does. And in Hosea 3, God says, I want you to love her because that's the way I love my people, as an adulterous bride. So I was thinking, gosh, so I'm God's bride. I'm not just God's bride, I'm an adulterous bride. And then I was reading, there's a guy named Ray Vanderlaan who teaches.
Yeah.
You know who he is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got this awesome teaching about like in the Passover supper, when Jesus fills the cup and he says, this is my covenant with you, take and drink it. That language, those words, this is my covenant with you, take and drink it, that's what a guy back then would do when he proposed. Like he would buy the right to propose, which was cool because other Middle Eastern countries it's the opposite. Like dads are trying to sell off their girls, but in the Israeli culture it was flipped, where the guy would pay a bride price. He would pay for the bride, and he would just get the right to. Maybe this is more than you're hoping for, whatever. This blew my mind. This literally changed the way I view a lot. When he would pay for the chance to propose, okay? And the way they would do it is they'd get all the relatives in a room, and he'd fill the cup up with wine, and he would say, hey, this is my covenant with you, take and drink it. At which point, she could actually reject it. But if she said yes, the way she said yes was she just took the cup, and she took a sip. At which point, this is where it gets nuts. At which point, if she took the drink, the guy would go back to his town, and she would go back to her town, and they wouldn't see each other again until the wedding day. In the meantime, the guy would start building an insula. Well, an insula is a word for an extension off of his father's house. Okay, so girls, I know that sounds really exciting, but in that culture, you would actually all live together in this family dwelling called the insula, and the guy would build a mansion. And before you get excited, the word mansion meant like apartment, okay, or an addition. So he built this mansion, right, and it would be an addition to his dad's house. And he had to build it, and he couldn't go get married until it was finished. And the only one who could tell him when it was done was the dad. In the meantime, the girl was waiting. She didn't know the day or the time of the hour, but she'd be just chilling up in her room like, when's he gonna come? Let's go make some little rabbis, you know. And the only way they could communicate was through the best man. He would actually run over to her town and be like, check yes, no, or maybe. And then he'd like run the message back to him. So check this. So when the dad finally goes, okay, it's finished, the guy would get his groomsmen, and they would run to her town, and unannounced they would blow a shofar. It's like a little trumpet horn thing. And they'd blow the shofar. She's about, oh my goodness, she run down the stairs and basically down the aisle, and they get married that day. So rewind the story. So Jesus says, this is my covenant with you, take and drink it, right? Then what happens? They're like, well, let's see how far the rabbit hole goes. You know, they're like, okay, Jesus. And they take a sip. At which point, what does he say? He goes, hey, I'm going to have to leave a while. But take heart. As you wait for me, I'm going to send my best man, the Holy Spirit. He's going to communicate between us, okay? Now, you're going to be chilling in your town. You're not going to know the day or the time of the hour. But just take heart, because I got to go home to my Father's house where there are many mansions. And I'm going to prepare a place for you. Now, no one knows the day, the time, or the hour except the Father. But when he says, he gives me the go, I'm going to bring my groomsmen, the holy angels. They're going to blow their shofars, the 4 trumpets, and I'm going to bring you home for the marriage supper. Wow.